For example, chicken eggs went up in price by 80%. It even became a meme. The official unemployment rate in our country is about 25%. 1 out of 4 is unemployed. Ukraine received $28.1 billion from international partners. In average, it was 3 to 4 billion a month. Hello guys, my name is Alex, this is my vlog about life in Ukraine, and today I will tell you how a year of war affected Ukrainian economy. Let's start with something abstract. The most abstract thing in economy is GDP, the value of all goods and services produced in a country in a year. In 2022, Ukraine's GDP fell by 29.1%. That's much less than was originally expected. In the very beginning of war, I heard predictions that Ukraine's GDP would fall by half, by 50%, but fortunately it didn't happen. This is probably due to a decline in the intensity of military actions. But it is still a huge number. If we look at the dynamics, in the last 10 years, Ukraine's GDP was growing by at most 5.4% a year. So even this minus 29% promise us with at least a decade of recovery. For some reason, I couldn't find any specific value of GDP per capita in 2022 in public sources. Even in this spreadsheet from Wikipedia that I just showed you, the value of GDP is listed, while the GDP per capita is not. I suppose the reason for this is that it's not quite clear how many capitas we have left. The number of Ukraine's population was a controversial issue even before the war. We haven't had census since 2001. And now this value is even more difficult to determine. The number of people who left the country since the beginning of the war is estimated between 8 and 12 million, while the number of people who stayed is between 28 and 34 million. Of course, it's a temporary situation. Some refugees, or even most refugees, will return when the war is over, but at the same time, some people who cannot leave Ukraine at the moment will do this as soon as it becomes possible. So it's too early to draw conclusions. Okay, now let's look how these abstract things affect the lives of ordinary citizens. Or as our former president used to say, the life of a little Ukrainian. Inflation in 2022 was 26.6%, which again is not that much considering our state of affairs. The problem is rather in the structure of this inflation. Food products were affected the most. For example, chicken eggs went up in price by 80%. It even became a meme. I talked about it in my video about Ukrainian money memes. Fruits went up by 50%, while vegetables and fish by about 40%. Food has always been the biggest item of expenditure for Ukrainian households. And now that food prices are rising so rapidly, more and more people have to tighten their belts, both figuratively and literally. I recall in spring 2022, in the very beginning of the war, a lot of food was delivered to Kiev as a humanitarian aid from other countries. And frankly, it wasn't that necessary. I mean, it helped the poorest people a lot, but most Ukrainians back then suffered more from a lack of medicine and fuel than from a lack of food. On the other hand, now, if food prices continue growing, those trucks with macaroni and crackers could become very relevant. By the way, the average salary also rose last year by 6%, but with inflation it fell by 12%. The average salary in Ukraine is currently about $460 a month. Unfortunately, not everyone gets even this money. The official unemployment rate in our country is about 25%. 1 out of 4 is unemployed. Just as with the number of population, this value is difficult to determine for sure. There are people who work illegally, but also there are people who don't have a job and don't register as unemployed because it doesn't make much practical sense. But I can show you something from my own experience. As I said in my previous video, IT industry, which used to be one of the most stable sectors of Ukrainian economy, is currently going through hard times. Compared to the pre-war period, the number of vacancies decreased by half, while the competition between job seekers increased by about 5 times. In this screenshot, you see a middle React developer job posting that got 73 applications in one day. Before the war, such job posting would get at most 10 applications in total. Above that, you also can see a junior software engineer position which got 223 applications. Junior positions have always been in high demand, but of course it didn't mean hundreds of applicants before. And finally, your favorite topic, international macro-financial aid. The money that allies give to Ukraine to keep its economy alive. A few people asked me in the comments how much money from their taxes we get and how we spend it. And I should say that Ukrainians know about this even less than you do. In 2022, Ukraine received $28.1 billion from international partners to fill its fiscal deficit. In average, it was 3 to 4 billion a month. The government uses this money to fulfill its social obligations, that is, to pay pensions to pensioners and salaries to employees of state-owned organizations, like public schools and hospitals. Not all of this money are free. Some of it is loans that Ukraine will have to pay back when the war is over. At the end of 2022, Ukraine's national debt reached 78.5% of GDP. If you are from Greece or Spain, you probably understand what that means for us in practical terms. But so far, this is definitely not our biggest problem. The biggest problem is what happens when international macro-financial aid stops coming. In that case, the government will have to cut spending by that $3 to $4 billion a month, which leads to people having less money and buying less goods. And as a result of this, some businesses will probably have to go bankrupt, triggering a chain reaction. This is actually the reason why I call this video Schrödinger's economy. Despite the fact that currently Ukrainian economy feels not great, but okay. Just like in the case of Schrödinger's cat, we will be able to learn its actual condition only when we open the box. That is, when we start living within our means. That's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Write in the comments what do you think about my armchair expertise. If you have your own ideas on what Ukrainian people are gonna eat in the nearest future, share them as well. Share this video with your friends. It really helps in developing my channel. And as usually, like, subscribe, and have a nice day.